How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. It's a thrill to be talking to you here today because I've grown up with your music, with Donna's music. I had the opportunity to actually meet your daughter Amanda when she was coming out about a decade ago and hitting the road with Johnny Swim as well. So it's a real thrill to be able to get to know another member of the Sudano family today.
Yeah, they actually played the Kimmel Show last night.
Were they on?
Yeah.
See,
go to YouTube and you can check it out. That's what I did at 3 a.m. Yeah.
Well, for those who aren't familiar with you, Bruce Sudano, longtime band member, songwriter, you met the incomparable Donna Summer in the 70s, began writing together, began performing together, got married, had your family, and went on to live a great life together. We lost Donna in the early 2010s, but you have kept her spirit alive, kept her stories alive, kept her music alive, and just thrilled to be hearing that you're working on your own new projects today. And as we get started on that, Bruce, I had to ask, it's been a long time since you've worked on new projects, or at least that we have known of in the public sphere. Have you been writing? Have you been recording?
Well, throughout my career, I've always continued writing and for movies and other artists, and as well as with Donna and touring with her on the road. But when she got sick in 2011, my way to process the whole journey of that was to write through it. I released an album, my first solo album in 30-something years, back in 2013, 2012, something like that. It's called With Angels on a Carousel. And since that time, I've continued, at that point, I started my solo career back up again. And I've released my current album, Talking Ugly Truth, is probably my 6th album since that time. I've been touring with the Zombies sometimes, UK tours, Colin Bluntstone, touring on my own, and all in the effort to establish myself as a solo artist at this point in my life, and it's been a very interesting and invigorating and challenging, in a good way, experience. So my current record is rocking pretty well. More than a quarter million YouTube views on the latest single, and streams picked up and touring's picked up, and so yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't aware of all that you've been up to, since losing Donna, and I have to, and I don't want to be sad today.
Well, let's yell at Ken for that.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get too sad or anything like that.
No, absolutely not.
But I have to believe that she's watching over you and saying, yes, you're doing it.
Well, look, I like to believe that. Certainly part of what I do and what my family does is we work to maintain Donna's, spirit and image and voice and persona in the zeitgeist. Back in 2018, we, did a Broadway musical. Last year, my daughter Brooklyn co-directed with Academy Oscar winner Roger Ross Williams the Donna Summer documentary. I'm happy to say that Donna continues to grow and build, and that's very satisfying, and I'm very pleased about that, because she deserves it, and she continues to have room to grow in terms of her music reaching people and other generations, and people awareness of who she was, what she contributed, and how great she was as an artist and a songwriter and a human being.
Take us back, Bruce, to your first meeting with her.
We met March 13th, 1977. I was with my partners, Joe Bean Esposito and Eddie Hoganson from the Brooklyn Dreams. We were just getting ready to begin our first album. We were at a friend, a girl we grew up with in Brooklyn, Susan Mineo, who is the director of publicity of Casablanca Records. We were there visiting her. Donna was learning how to drive and decided to come and visit the publicity director at her record company, which was Susan Mineo, and we all met that day.
And your first impression of her?
My first impression of her was, well, this is an interesting person. It was funny because, by that time in my career, I had already, co-written a hit song for Tommy James and the Shondells. My own band, Alive and Kickin', had already had a hit. I had already suffered the slings and arrows of releasing subsequent singles and not having the success that I had already achieved. But I was determined not to be a one-hit wonder. At the time that I met Donna, she had just had her one hit, which was Love to Love You, Baby. And, I like to say in my snobbish songwriter mentality, I didn't put a whole lot of credence in it at that point in time. I didn't understand that was just one aspect of who she was, So we met and started writing songs together immediately, and built a great friendship with Donna and myself and the other guys in the Brooklyn Dreams, and Donna actually came and sang background on the first Brooklyn Dreams album, and then we returned the favor by singing backgrounds on the title cut of her album at the time. It's called I Remember Yesterday, and we went on from there.
Hold on, hold that thought.
Hold that thought.
Hold that thought.
You're looking for an album.
I am. Hold that thought.
Are you looking for the I Remember Yesterday album?
I know it's in here somewhere.
Are you going to search the credits to see if my...
No, I know you're in there. I know you're there. Oh, come on. I got too many... I just went vinyl shopping this weekend, and that's the problem, is now I'm just... can't find anything anymore.
You're all out of order. Well,
they're all out of order, and I've got new stuff mixed in with the originals, know.
Yeah.
I'll find it later. It's in there. Trust me, Bruce. Trust me.
I believe you. And all that to say, after we sign off on this interview, you'll give me your address, and I will send you the vinyl of my new album.
I love it. That would be so cool. That's awesome. Thank you. I've got to ask, so you start writing songs. When does the spark happen? Because you're not the only person that's written a song with someone where, especially as we approach Valentine's Day, the love starts to fly.
We sparked right away. We spent the next week really staying up all day, all night, writing, being together, getting to know each other. So it was kind of an instantaneous situation, one in which, I had a girlfriend at the time. She had a boyfriend at the time. And so we had to navigate those separations in order for us to begin our relationship, which we ultimately did.
And how about the other guys? Were they giving you grief, or were they like, hey, like, go for it?
Well, no, they weren't giving me grief at all. I mean, they're my brothers. They remained, two of my best friends, and it was a very, it was a very it was like a bomb going off. There was so much going on in our lives at that particular moment. We had just gotten signed. Donna had just returned from 8 years in Germany. We all just met. Brooklyn Dreams were in this movie being made called American Hot Wax. We formed a band in that movie called the Planetones with Kenny Vance. And we were recording our first album. And so all this was going on at the same time. She was going on American Bandstand. We were on American. The Brooklyn Dreams went on American Bandstand. She introduced us to the audience on American. We were touring together. Singles were being made. Album covers were being shot. Promotion was being done on both aspects of the Dreams and Donna's. So it was a very catalytic, maybe that's the word I was looking for, moment. And the only negativity to the relationship was coming basically from my record company. I think the record companies were more at ease with what was happening than anybody. My record company is saying to me, Bruce, you're going to ruin your career. You're going to be in the shadow of this other person. Be careful what you're doing. And Donna's record company also at the same time maybe was a little anxious of losing control of her. So subsequently, the second Brooklyn Dreams, so the first album was on, we were the first act assigned to Jimmy Einer's Millennium Records. Which was distributed by Casablanca. So the second Brooklyn Dreams album,
everything was Casablanca. Everything was Casablanca at that time. It was
but the second Brooklyn Dreams album was our contract got bought out from Millennium, and our second album was on Casablanca. So that was the only exterior dynamic that was going on that was opposed to the relationship. So we worked our way through it.
Yeah. Love has a way of coming full circle through that. There's one of Donna's songs that we play a lot here on our show, Throwback Nation Radio, that I do have to ask about because I need confirmation that this story is true. And that is the song, She Works Hard for the Money, which we've heard, all of us have heard so many times through the years on the radio, at a club, in the car, wherever you're out and about. The song is really about her meeting a woman who's hustling, working as a bathroom attendant. That's the story I've heard. Do you know that to be true? Wow.
That's absolutely true. It was at Chasen's. And Donna went into the ladies' room. Onetta was there. We later got to know Onetta. She was a nurse, with children. And she was, moonlighting as the bathroom attendant. And she was actually, when Donna walked into the bathroom, Onetta was like sleeping in the corner. And Donna thought to herself, wow, she works hard for the money. And she knew immediately it was a great title. I wrote it on a napkin, and there you go.
Any other songs that you've written through the years where you're jotting it on? Because this is even before Post-it notes and all that sort of stuff. You're writing on napkins. You're writing on the back of your hand.
Well, I often tell the story that as I was starting out as a kid in Brooklyn, in my early teens, somebody who fell in love with the names under the titles on the 45s, which was the names of the songwriters. And this was my dream to be one of those guys. And in those days, there I would be in the basement of my parents' house, trying to write a song and writing a song. And the only way that I could remember the song was to play it over and over and over again, because I had no way to record the song. This is before, Walkman, before cassettes. It was in the day of a 2-track recorder, and a kid growing up, a middle-class kid growing up in Brooklyn, couldn't really afford the 2-track, so I would have to memorize it by playing it over and over again, with my parents stomping on the floor saying, go to sleep. So it was definitely before Post-it notes, and now we all have the luxury of recording on our phones, and there's so many digital ways of recording things. But it's been an evolution. But yeah, there were definitely the songs that were, you know, written on napkins and post-it notes, and you know, many of us songwriters walked around with a big notebook full of titles and lyric ideas and all of that, and now, we do it in our phones, so.
I got to ask too, and I want to talk about the new music and the new release and all that you've been doing in the last decade or so. But when your daughters said, "We want to do this," how did you react?
Well, I mean, I reacted fine. I think that my thing is always, follow your dreams and where you're inspired and where you're called to be, and nothing is easy, everything is hard. So work hard at what you love, and that's a good thing. So all of my daughters, I have three daughters, Mimi, Brooklyn, and Amanda, and they're all artists in their own way and creatives in their own right. And Amanda was, if anybody, the Amanda who was in Johnny Swim and a singer, she, was always reluctant to sing. All three of my daughters have great voices, and they all can sing well, and Amanda was no exception, but she was very shy about it. So I just basically backed off from Amanda as terms of that. And then she met Abner, and, fell in love with Abner, and he very gingerly pulled her out of herself, and she's evolved into a very confident singer, an amazing songwriter, and the both of them are great singer-songwriters and artists and great performers, so.
So let's get back to you. Here we are.
Yeah.
You've lost your soulmate, and you
Yeah.
start going back and you start writing and you start performing again.
Yeah.
Was it like the old, you never forget how to ride a bike thing, it just comes back to you? Or was there a new sense of self? Talk us through that.
Yeah, well, it's, I always had the luxury of being able to write songs and have some of the best singers in the world sing them.
Just
So,
just a little.
yeah,
The best singers of all time across the globe.
so the thing for me was the ultimate challenge, and from the time I was a little kid, I was on stage and playing and singing, you know, although with a great singer to carry the load. So this the challenge was, okay, Bruce, now the challenge is for you to get up on that stage by yourself, tell your story, sing your songs with your voice. I think ultimately it was a very good thing for me, because it was a challenge that I always had the calling to do, but had the luxury of being able to avoid. So the situation, took me to that place in life where I had to face that challenge. And, the good thing about life, challenges are good, and it keeps you engaged. It keeps you with a sense of purpose, uh, a reason for living, and a sense of a place to grow too. So this was my challenge. I accepted it full on. I've continued to grow in it. I'm much more comfortable on stage now. I know who I am. I know the story I need to tell. Uh, uh, I've grown in the situation, so I'm grateful for that. I've remarried. I've been able to write songs, about loss and suffering, songs about how I challenged myself through that, and even with being able to fall in love again, songs about, can I fall in love, should I fall in love, how do you do that? And then the aspect of actually falling in love and being a guy of a certain age and feeling like a teenager in love again, and how do you write about that? And so I've been able to have, things to write about, real deep emotional things to write about, songs of joy, songs of hurt and loss, songs about, the social climate, all of these things that I stay engaged with. And, it was a surprise for me to know that at this point in my life that I could be so inspired and so engaged with living and life, and, that's the beauty I've discovered of being an artist, is that as long as you keep living and stay engaged with your art, uh, you can remain inspired and productive. And, you know, uh, I, I continue to grow and get better at what I do, which is, awesome.
There's someone you hit the nail on the head of being of a certain age. I'll share a quick story with you. My mother-in-law and father-in-law both lost their spouses. My wife's mom, my wife's stepdad, lost their spouses, found each other later in life. I don't think either one of them, although they hopped onto some of the websites and the apps and that sort of stuff, I don't think either one of them was necessarily expecting to go through the same sort of experience and the same sort of emotions you were just describing. There's somebody that's going to watch this conversation here on YouTube or online or wherever, and they're going to say, you know what, if Bruce can do it, maybe
Yeah.
maybe I've got another chapter. Maybe it's not love. Maybe it's something else.
Yeah. Yes. The thing is that you have to recover and you have to walk forward, and that's the big dilemma, because when you're so crushed in that moment, it's like I was with Donna for 35 years. You know, I didn't know what my life was without her, and I knew I couldn't go back to the guy I was before her. So who are you now in this moment, And so you suffer the loss, you go through it, and you find your footing again. And the pull is you just want to curl up in a corner, but you can't allow yourself to do that. You have to go on living. That's the right thing to do, I believe. And it's sometimes a challenge. And then you see what doors open up for you, and sometimes, I have friends who have been who are in this position who haven't found somebody new, and they're still trying to adjust their life to their new situation. I was somebody who discovered that, although I can be somebody who likes his own space, and I can be a very contemplative person, because of that, I thought I can manage being alone.
Mm-hmm.
But I discovered that no, I didn't like being alone. I too much time by myself is not good for me, and and there were bees circling around me, and I was like, no, these aren't the right person. But I was just like, Lord, please send me the right one. I don't want to live like this, And it wasn't so much send me the right one. It was like, I don't. How do I manage this? I don't want to live like this, And then I was fortunate enough to meet Francesca, and find a new love, and uh, a completely different person than Donna, but you know great in her own right, and you're navigating the whole thing of your family is changing, and how do your kids adjust to this, and all of it. It's a whole new navigation system, but it's plenty of things for me to write about. So,
Exactly. That's where I was going for,
that's why I have 6 albums in this last decade, and there's plenty of and grateful for the gift of being a songwriter that I've been given, and so yeah.
One final thought as we look ahead, we can do some shopping for the new album. We can come see you out and about. We can come see you as you tour and you perform. Think back to that kid who's in the basement, who's listening to that song over and over and over again. You're listening to the 45.
Yeah.
That kid is living your life now. What's that kid thinking?
That kid is thinking, on one hand thinking it could never really be true, but at the same time having the courage and the faith to walk down that road blindly, even though it seemed like a dream. Dreams can become true. Passions, I believe in a calling. I believe that I was called to do what I do. So, in a sense, it's a vocation. And I had the gift of being able to have that and to recognize it and to have the, faith and the wherewithal to to step out in it. So
Someone wise once said, once upon a time, there was a girl or a guy who lived in the land of dreams unreal. And
that's
some of
it.
those unreal dreams can come true. And that's pretty
Absolutely.
special.
Absolutely. And that's certainly one of the anchors that I don't know if anchor is the right word, but it was certainly definitely one of the places where, when Donna and I met, we it was like a collision, but there were so many things in us that we recognized in each other. And it took a minute. They say, it's iron sharpens iron, they say, or the Bible says, or, and it took a minute for us to, sharpen each other and finally off our rough edges so that the two could be one and function for as long as we did, but there again, you believe in the dream and you believe in the calling and you follow that road.
There's a lot of people that have believed in your music through the years, from the Tommy James days, the disco era, becoming such a big part of Donna's life, her music, raising a family, having your own voice yet again here, Bruce. And what a pleasure. I'll tell you, the kid that grew up listening to all those 70s and 80s albums of his parents, that kid's pretty impressed to be talking to you today. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm happy to talk to you. I appreciate the time to talk to you, and thanks for being so kind and sweet and gentle.
Hey, that's what we're here for. What did you think we're not hard copy or anything here, Bruce. We're not Inside Edition. We're in a current affair. We're not bringing it.
Yeah, well, I recognize your temperament as you're a kind man, and that's good. And you care about what you do. So
well, thank you. Well, thank you. That made my day.
All right.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. We'll post
send your address and I'll send you an album.
This is like, whew, Bruce Sudano's emailing me or mailing me something. This is cool. I absolutely will. I'm going to send that back over to Ken. We'll post this online, and we'll post more on the album. We'll post more on everything you got going on, and make sure to share it on the air as well with our listeners and all that. And Bruce, what a thrill to be talking to you today. It means a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Till the next time.